mind with the truth. Open my mind with the truth. Now I'm gonna live my life like a lose.
Hi, I'm Frank Williams. Welcome to the Frank Williams Show, where we talk about real issues. Today, the show is with the chairman of Spoken Words, which is myself. So some of my shows, you heard people refer to me as the chairman, and you probably heard them referring to the chairman, and you know who they was talking about. Well, that's my stage name, my performance name, and it just stuck with me throughout my career. So not only am I known as Frank Williams, I'm also known as the chairman. And so on that note, I want to talk about social issues. As far as the chairman of spoken words, I'm a spoken word artist. I won several awards over the years, from Black Music Awards to various other awards that I received, and even had a CD that was nominated for the Grammys in spoken word. I didn't win, but I was nominated by someone in the music industry, which was very good for me as a spoken word artist. My name is Frank Williams, as you know, and I got into spoken words several years ago, back in the early 2000s. As a matter of fact, it was around 2002 that I met this person by the name of James Martin, who was one of the first interviewees on my show, the Frank Williams Show, and he was doing this spoken word venue out in Oakland, California, and I used to go to that. It was called Poetic Groove back in the day. It was ran by James Martin and the Go and Cassandra, and I had really got turned on to spoken words. I've been writing poetry all my life, but I never written spoken words. And once I got introduced to that, it was like a new phenomenon for me. Although I knew about people like Gil Scott-Heron and whatnot, but to be like totally involved in it myself, it was like a new awakening, like a new me, a new platform in order for me to talk about social issues. I'm really a advocate about social issues and how to help people out of their situations, or at least expose them to some of the things that they may not have been knowledgeable about, that changes our behavior and how people act in certain ways, or that self-defeating thinking like they can't make it, you know. And so, you know, I take some of that stuff and put positive reinforcement within my poetry. And I do a lot of stuff to expose some of the things that's going on out here in today's world. Whether we're talking about formerly incarcerated people, whether we're talking about people that commit crimes, whether we're talking about homelessness, whether we're talking about women being abused, you know, domestic violence. We talk about even children being misused. I talk about those things, and also talk about things such as people that pretend like as if they're advocating for you, and they end up selling you out for the money instead of staying true to their character as far as working for social justice, rather it's in a political platform or community engagement platform. You know, there's people out there that's not really in your best interest. And so, you know, I expose that kind of stuff in my writings. You know, I'm not a slam poet. I think I know I only participated in one slam ever in my life, and that was at the Green Mill in Chicago, the birthplace of slam poetry. And I came in second there, and it was really good to participate in it, only for the reason that my mother got to see me perform then. And I had my first CD out then called Social Ills. So it was really good that my mother got to see me and some of my families, my uncles and cousins, because I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois. But California is my home, you know, and so it's California and Oakland and San Francisco. Hit the poetry venues, and to today I have a show called Friday Night Out Showcase that come out every other month. February, April, June, August, October, and December of every year at Imagine Affairs at 408 14th Street in Oakland, California, in which we do comedy, poetry, and music. And what I do with my host, comedian Miss K Kidd, we bring on talent. We bring on Bay Area talent that need to be recognized for their worth. That's really dedicated to making people feel good. You know, the comedians, man, this Bay Area is rich with artists that are comedians. Then we have music, you know, from bands to solo artists, and then we also have our spoken word and our poets, and it's just a great thing. And so, what's so special about Friday Night Out Showcase is that we showcase the artists. You know what I mean? I mean, we really showcase them, and we make sure that we have a photographer that have pictures of them so they can have a portfolio of their show. We have a videographer that videos the show so they can have a segment of that video to put in their portfolio, you know, and we also show them how to go out there and market themselves as well. So, yeah, the artists, they sell their own tickets as well as the production, Friday Night Out production. And, you know, it's all like a learning experience, you know, so that people can really know how to handle their career and learn certain things they need to learn, whereas some artists that we have are very, you know, rich and gifted as far as knowing the business side of this industry, because this industry too is tricky, you know. And so on that note, I have my latest, or should I say my newest video that's released from my upcoming CD called The Chairman of Spoken Word 3, called One Day. Released from that CD is called Twilight, featuring a Bay Area artist, Dom Jones, who's phenomenal. She is an entertainer. She is a rapper. She is a singer. She is a composer. She's a writer. She's just all in one. And she has a band and she has her own label called Dom Empire. And then the other poet, spoken word artist on this video, Twilight, is for a family. His name is Sam Fletcher. He out of Oakland, California. He's like tearing the Bay Area up by storm. Uprising spoken word artist, actor. He done been in several plays. He done been in some major productions with Corey the Poet, like at Bow Theater and different venues. I mean, this guy also has his own venue now. It's called Loudmouth Poets at Imagine Affairs. And his is every other month. So the months that I gave you for mine, his is the next month. So his is like January, March, May, July, September, and November every year. So yeah, so this is great, and I'm gonna show you right now. I'm gonna move right into this video called Twilight. Twilight is a video that was created to show social ills. I mean, from the epistemology of it, meaning that it shows like signs and symbols and of being brainwashed, and how people can be brainwashed through mind control to even that changes the behavior and conduct of a person. So simultaneously, you're gonna see different characters like a vampire. You're gonna see some clones. You're gonna see a mad scientist in the first part of the scene. That really is being symbolic. You know, when it start off being symbolic of demonism, and you're gonna see the full moon when it first start, which is a symbolic of the demonic culture when the moon rise full. You know, the werewolf and demons come out at night. So, but in translation into the day world, you know, a lot of crime happen at night. You know, from drug users to murders to people being robbed, and a lot of beatings and killings and stuff that's going on across this nation, you know, that we only see little clips of every now and then in the news. This stuff is happening for real, you know, all the way down to people being kidnapped, people being forced into situations they never thought they'd be forced into because they entered a certain culture, for example, a drug culture, a substance abuse culture, for example, and not knowing that they opened up Pandora box, so they entered to a gang culture, you know, and through gang cultures they have to be initiated to do certain things, you know, or next you know that leads to rivalry, you know, and people taking over territories that don't even really belong to them, you know what I mean? You know, I also, and then the next part shows, it's in 3 sections, and the next part is Dom Jones showing the revolutionary style, you know, from what, you know, African Americans and other cultures, people of color, used in order to advocate, such as marching and showing ethnocentrism and symbolic with African Americans, the solid fist being raised all the way down to when Egyptian cultures, such as you're gonna see her earring that has the ankh, you know what I mean, and then you're gonna also see in the third scene you're gonna see a fantastic part put together that's really true. True to life that was put together by Sam Fletcher for a family. You're going to see a part where his is really focusing in on the individualism of the result of violence to where one of his family members was slain and doing praise to her. Now, this film, Twilight, is bigger than what people think. It's on a macro, mesio to a micro level, and we cover all spans of it. So even at the end, you're gonna see a part where for fam look up at the billboard, and you're gonna see flashes of Oscar Grant. You're gonna see flashes of Oscar Grant and Walter Scott. You know, you're gonna see the guys like being massacred like by the police, and the purpose of that isn't to incite any type of riot. The purpose of that is talk about this mind control span beyond just blackness and whiteness. It's about whoever is being caught up and captured in this mind control. So when you see certain people doing certain things, whether it's the police or just your next door neighbor, you know, you got to question yourself as to why is these things happening. And not only that, you know, why is this continuing today? And here we are in 2015 in a technological era, and we still like living like we back in the day, you know, like we in the early BC, you know, and AC, in a matter of fact, like AD, excuse me, like, you know, we living like, you know, we don't have the mind and strength and the courage to like act like human beings during this change process. I mean, we're in a new day, we're in a new era, and you know, mental health has risen. Mental health is risen. You look at things like cancer, it hasn't been curtailed, it's risen. I mean, it's a lot of things that's going on. Behavior is going on. Criminal justice system overcrowded. I mean, you have to ask yourself, why is this happening? You know, why, you know, in the early 70s and 80s, early 70s to the mid 80s, I mean, it wasn't that many people incarcerated, to be honest. You know, some jails had less than 1,000 people incarcerated. In California, there probably was 11 prisons. And then next year, you know, we got 33 prisons in California. So, and it speaks to behavior, and there's many other variables, you know, such as guns being shipped into San Francisco, for example, since that's the home base of this BAVC we here at SF Commons. So let's talk about that. Guns being shipped here, who they coming from, how did they get into the neighborhoods? We could talk about the drugs, where they come from, how did they get into the neighborhoods, you know? And so we could talk about these things, but it's good that some of us are creative enough to speak these things through ways and use platforms in order to wake people up about it. You know, so this film was produced by Symphony Production. It was filmed by Symphony Productions and the chairman of Spoken Word Music Incorporate. So I'm going to get to the video. Sit back and watch this video, and I'll be right back with you.
In the twilight, my brain rattles with laughter and screams. Am I schizophrenic? Scientific twists got me feeling hopeless. GPS systems and electronic streams, so extremes, mind controlling signals sending sensations through me. cloning me. Got me plotting schemes while losing my dreams. In the twilight, redesigning my neurotransmitters, depleting my dopamines. My own people become targets in the darkness, like they are the harvest carcass. I'm heartless, my soul darkened, casting no reflection or shadow. In the twilight, I can't sleep. Body restless, mind confessing. Trapped energy is being transmitted. Losing the force to resist. When the night falls, resist the cause.
Finding me lost in the twilight.
Night falls, resist the cause. In the twilight.
Finding me lost in the twilight. Lost. Finding me lost in the twilight. Lost. Finding me lost in the twilight.
Every time you say it's nothing, cousin, you give something up. Thinking that you're something tough, brother, what you running from? We remain the hunted, America's most wanted. A villainous type soundbite. Every time we're slaughtered and leaving our sons and daughters to only remember martyrs in the twilight of civil rights. But they thought we get farther. Ancestors, forefathers looking up from their graves that earned stripes by stars falling in the home of the slave. Engaged in this warfare, but is there more here for me than seeing all my loved ones deceased in the belly of the beast?
When the night falls, resist the cause.
Finding me lost in the
When
twilight.
the night falls, resist the cause. In the twilight.
Finding me lost in the twilight. Lost. Finding me lost in the twilight. Lost. Finding me lost in the twilight.
I see my mind playing tricks on me. Another murder done happened up in the street corner. Little youngsters ain't living, they rather die for it. And on the t-shirt, they go his homie, he got pride for him. But in the street life we live where he ride for him. I hope this gun don't shoot and take a life from us. Another night that I cry up on my bending knees, watching them bleed for his life up in these city streets.
When the night falls, resist the cause.
Finding me lost in the twilight.
When the night falls, resist the cause. In the twilight.
Finding me lost in the twilight. Lost. Finding me lost in the twilight. Lost. Finding me lost in the twilight. Finding me lost in the twilight.
When the night falls, resist the cause. In the twilight.
So that was Twilight. Twilight is a very moving video. There's so many different signs and symbols in this video. You would actually have to watch it maybe about 5-6 times to even catch most of what's going on in this video. I mean, things from the Grim Reaper to the Undertaker. In fact, the Grim Reaper walks through this video like through all 3 different segments. But if you're not watching close, you don't even notice the Grim Reaper, for example. The Grim Reaper play a certain part because he's coming around to take souls. That's what he's there to do. And so when we look at this video, it's really a conversation piece for a lot of people. I mean, I done showed this movie to various different sectors, and from the government sector to private industry to people like you right here that's watching this segment of this TV show, and to the poetry venues I've also shown them. So, and I've got different type of feedback on it, you know, to those who are Christian, for example, that would look at this and ask me, what is that really about? What is you trying to put out? I don't really get it. And then I would have to explain to them, like you would have to explain to anyone who really don't understand anything, what was the purpose of your work? What was the purpose of your work? This work is just so deep, and I thank these actors and these artists that worked with me on this video, Twilight, because it's really profound. At the beginning part, as you just saw, you know, where They got me in the laboratory. They got me in the laboratory trying to pull my spirit out of me, trying to change me using like what the song is talking about, GPS systems and these different streams in which today people are just hooked. In fact, they had a psychologist to make a study of people that aired on the news this morning where people they took photography and just took pictures of people holding their cell phones while they walking, while they sitting down, while they on boat trips, just their hands are stuck to these phones. And then what they did, they removed the phones through Photoshop from their hands and showed how they look, how people look just standing around like without the phone. You know what I mean? And that's a sign of mind control. That's a sign of brainwash, that you get so addicted to something and it's changed your behavior. How do it change your behavior? Well, you see people today, they'll walk right across the street on a red light with that phone in their hand, looking at that phone, which could cause their death if they get hit by a car or broken bones or whatever. I mean, just think about that phone, just being able to take it everywhere you go. And now they got to where you can even take TV with you everywhere you go. Just going to this, tap into Infinity or whatever, Comcast or whatever. You can download these, the apps to your phone, and next you can take television with you everywhere you go. So you got people riding in the cars looking at these phones, and it's like, and these systems is like controlling you. They like controlling you. I mean, you sitting in meetings, even people that's, professionals, they sit in meetings and the phone just go off and they looking at their phones and they texting while they driving. And I mean, you got to really think about the nature of this, the effect to where psychologically I can make an announcement that an iPhone 8 is coming out next week, and next thing you know, you done pre-ordered. I got you where you pre-order them for thinking you getting a discount or whatever. You got those, just want to be the first one to have this phone. And they spending the night overnight outside of a store all across the country, spending the night out in front of a store until that store open to buy that Apple phone. And be ready to spend $700-800 for a phone. Why? Because it shows great pictures, or you have the computer on it, and like you could go in there and buy it at any time. Why you got to spend the night out to get it as if there's no tomorrow? And that's how marketing also brainwash people, right? That you just got to be the first. You just got to be this, to the point that you will put yourself out to be uncomfortable, to spend the night outside in the element around hundreds of more people that you don't even know, to be one of the first ones to go inside of a store to give away $700-800 that you worked hard for, right? But you didn't do this to get your child in school for their first day of school. You didn't do this for your neighbor. Stay out there and advocate for your neighbor that just got their house broken into, or robbed, or shot and killed. We don't see that many people even going down to City Hall to advocate about injustices, in not even in no masses. So you got to really think about mind control. And mind control go back to the days of Hitler and before. I mean, when you think about the damage that man did using mind control, and mind control is used within the cults. Mind control is used in all kind of different streams, even through the movies, to the point that, if you look at Love and Hip Hop today, for example, you look at Love and Hip Hop, and you got all these young girls, for example, looking at Love and Hip Hop, and next thing you know, they want to change their figure. So they ready to go get some plastic surgery. You know what I mean? They ready to go get they breasts done. They ready to go get their rears done. They ready, they not happy. They ready to go get a nose job. And these are normal, everyday people who don't have the money to really do it, who will sacrifice themselves to get that money. And how do they get that money if they low income? But they get that money. And so being in that state of a trance to be fixated on something that you want so badly, well, guess what? Sometimes that change your behavior to go out there and do some other things. Where, that nice little girl that you thought was so nice, next thing you know, she's on different channels that's used over the electronic streams, you know what I mean? And getting older guys to spend money with them in all kind of ways, you know what I mean? And so you got guys out here like, they want to be the first one with the Air Jordan, the new Jordans that come out. Like, it's still a big thing even today. But you know, a lot of them don't even know that Michael Jordan owns stock in these private prisons, right? So it's like the main people that's paying Nike and paying him to be a spokesperson for Nike are the people in the urban communities, are the ones that's even end up going to prison in some cases because of things that they do to afford things that they can't really afford because it's been marketed to them. They being mind controlled to want to have these things, you know. So it goes really deep when we really like sit back and really study behavior, study what caused a person to do certain things, you know. You can read certain books on this stuff in criminology that talk about deviance will always be. However, there's a thin line there, right? Because, you know, as a child, you may grow up and do things that you're not even aware that you're doing, and your parents correct you on it, right? You know what I mean? But at the same time, once you realize the difference between right and wrong, you know the difference between right and wrong. For example, how many of you out there then spent the night outside all night long waiting on Black Friday? I mean, really, you really got brainwashed into this effect that you need to even spend the night out, not only for an Apple phone, but for Black Friday, you know, to get some things that was marked down. Only maybe about 8 or 10 items out of the whole store was marked down, and you think you're about to get this 80-inch flat screen TV, you know what I mean, for like $400, but it's a plasma that people don't even, you know, they old school. They old school. They got UHDs and everything else coming out right now. So you really think you got to buy, because once you couldn't afford that TV at its regular price, now you can get it for $400, so you're going to spend the night outside, when after that sale is over with, those type of TVs is going down in the first place. So it's like, how do we do these? How do we get involved to be so psyched out? And it's because we're in a new era. We're in a technological era. And we have things being promoted and sent, and different messages, like mixed messages being sent to us on a daily. From the time you wake up and turn that news on to the time you walk outside your house, there's all kind of messages being sent at you right after you wake up. So you have to be prepared and put your armor on. And one of my job as the chairman of spoken word, you know, I'm an author, I'm a writer, I'm a poet, I'm a spoken word artist, I'm a director of a program, I'm an advocate, I'm a mentor, I'm a sponsor, I'm also a father, I'm a family man. I mean, I do a lot. I'm a student, you know, and I'm working on a PhD in criminal justice. I've been working in this field for 18 years. I done been in these jails, you know, talking to these inmates for years, you know, and I'm talking about young. And I remember in the late 90s, man, in late 90s, 98, 99, working with community service, community parole, helping guys get out. I remember in the early 2000s, around 2003, 2004, being in there and seeing youngsters coming in younger and younger at 18, when it used to be a population of, an age population of 35 and older, and now they 18. Coming into the jails, right? And I'm not talking about juvenile, I'm talking about adult jails, to going straight to prison. And it's like, you know, I did interventions with even young guys who turned gay, who was afraid to even tell their family and their loved ones, but because we did some work on identification to break even that brainwashed thing about your identity or who you are, that you are in conflict. So a lot of people are in conflict with who they are. And it's not even just about being gay or straight. It's about, am I black or white? Because I got mixed blood. I'm a half-breed. You know, these different things that we've been taught through mixed messages through society of how not to accept ourselves for who we are. You know, I myself, I had a Michael Jackson disease. You know, I'm discoloring. I'm losing my pigmentation. This been going on for the last 5 years, right? To around my mouth, my lips, my hands, my feet, you know. And for a minute, you know, it caused a little effect on me as well, to whereas I was like, wow, why is these things happening to me? What's going on with me, right? So unless you run the right people that nurture you and mentor you and really, you know, give you truthful information, you know, you can get psyched out and end up somewhere where you don't need to be going. and then we can understand why now we having so much depression going on. I mean, this remind me back in the day of John Lennon, like all the lonely people, where do they all come from? Well, people getting brainwashed to be lonely. People getting they watch certain shows and then they being social models certain activities that cause them to feel and act a certain way. You know, I used Love and Hip Hop as an example, and being on Facebook, you know, me and someone else, a few other people was going back and forth on Empire. Well, man, why is it that every time they show black people got to be in a negative, have a negative image, and then be deemed successful? Like, why do you have to be a drug dealer turn singer or songwriter to have an empire? Why they not showing some of the real people that's doing the real work, you know what I mean, and show them building their empires, you know? Well, you know, certain things go on that is accepted within the industry, and if you haven't noticed by now, you know, the type of things is being portrayed out there for you to get hooked into, then, you know, that's why I take people like me and other people in the communities to try to open up your mindset to it. You know what I mean? It's like when you look at, for example, in the third scene of Twilight, a person like Walter Scott shot down like a dog, like we was back in the 50s and 60s, or even before that, you know, just shot down like a dog. But that video even go further than that, to where the officer was covering up, you know, threw down a stun gun or something next to him, or whatever it was he threw down next to him or whatever. You know, he ended up losing his job behind that. But the point is, you know, who taught him to be that way? And it's like, who teaches you? Who's raising you and teaching you these values and these morals? And as we look today, it's a lot of our values and morals going out the window, even all the way as something as simple as job etiquette. You know, we got young men who got tricked into wearing their pants down, and now today they showing their rear ends. I mean, you could walk into a store, you stand in front of one of them, and all you looking at is drawers. Who taught you to be that way? Who taught you to dress like that? Huh? The industry makers, and the ones behind the industry makers, you know, that some of us do know that some of that music was chemically treated. You know, you have psychologists that study everything about you, everything about your movements, everything about what you listening to, what you taste, you know, all the way down to the cigarettes that you smoke. If you smoke, to the what French fries should taste like and how they treat them for them to really taste good to you when you put them in your mouth, and how they can take water and make it taste like candy, and take candy and make it taste like water. I mean, you have to really think about these things. So Twilight goes into a lot of about how mind control can take over people. I mean, you know, there was a movie I called Universal Soldiers. I don't know if anybody ever really paid attention to it, but if you ever seen it, go back and look at it again. You understand what I'm talking about. So this stuff is crafted, and it's not by chance that right now you got a lot of television shows showing a lot of dirty things right now, and it's on purpose. And you know, especially since they always have been in a way, but when you look at it now, since, you know, there's no praying in school, that's been taken out. Since everything took prayer out of school, you know, you didn't have more people dropping out of school, you didn't have more teenage pregnancies, you didn't have more people incarcerated. And in fact, the United States is the highest incarceration capital of the world. So, I mean, we have more people incarcerated in Great Britain and 3 other countries put together. So, you know, you need to think about that. And I mean, you know, really in California alone with 33 prisons. And if it wasn't for these lawsuits that was being waged against them, these people would still be incarcerated, thrown away, keys thrown away and whatever. So Twilight goes more in depth than just the surface. So for those of you that get a chance, watch this video, go on YouTube. It's called Twilight, the Chairman of Spoken Words, featuring Dom Jones and For Family. And it's go way beyond the surface. Not, you know, I really ask you to watch at least 3-4 times. Just take your time and watch it, and then you may gain an understanding of what it is that we're really trying to put out there, because we're just trying to put the truth out there. And that's it. We trying to put the truth out there to awaken the minds that lies dormant, to awaken the minds to just keep going for anything, to awaken the minds that just been conditioned, because this is a conditioning that's being left upon us, that is promoted upon us, that we bite into. Because like I just gave you an example, I would never spend a night outside all night long for nothing being sold the next day that's going to be sold cheaper anyway. That's just marketing. That's just advertisement. But these things are happening to us in more ways than that. So just think about that when you go back and look at this video. The video is really a great video. I hope you get it and you pass it on to some other people. And for the single that was released, you can go to www.cdbaby.com/the chairman of spoken word 3. So you can go to cdbaby.com and get this video. You can go to YouTube and watch it. You know, support your local artists. I'm one of them, the chairman of spoken words. I want to thank you for joining in with me today. My name is Frank Williams. And from this point on, when you hear me being called a chairman, you know why. Chairman of spoken words. So I'm going to leave you with this piece. My body is too heavy to hang from a tree, and my mind is too deep to be brainwashed against humanity. My shoulders are too strong to give up on life behind issues. My arms are too strong. My legs are too strong. My desires are too strong to give up on you and me, for I am one of the seeds created to be. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Chairman.
Open my mind with the truth, Jeremy. Open my mind with the truth. Open my mind with the truth. Now I'm gonna live.